Welcome, everyone, to episode number 14 of The Outrage. Hello, everyone. I'm Spencer Byers, alongside Alek Manoah. Alain,
what's going on?
How are you?
We're back. Hey, guess what? We're consistent. Back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I know. I've had back-to-back episodes with Cajun and Polar Opposites. I've had back-to-back weeks of The Outrage. Next week, I expect the exact same from both shows. So, happy to finally be consistent. Only took us 8, 9, 10 months, but we finally got there. We're finally getting to a level of consistency, unlike the Toronto Blue Jays. I didn't know how quick you wanted to get into it, so we're gonna stab right into it.
I was gonna answer your question. I'm doing good.
Oh, I didn't let you answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you did. Well, it's because I was like, "What's going on?" And then we got to the explanation. I was like, "Oh, back-to-back weeks," and then I was like, "Oh, wait, I didn't answer his question again." I did the same thing last week, I'm pretty sure.
Well, yeah, you don't like answering my questions, Sal. Don't ask me why you don't like answering my questions.
Well, I just answered now, so I'm doing good. Are you doing good?
Peachy. Happy to be here. Happy to be back in the CSM studio.
That's
We're
right.
actually back in CSM for the first time ever, as David, I think, turns us down. We happen to not be able to get into Sportsnet because I forgot my ID, so now we're back here at CSM as Alek gets very upset about it. I actually, again, saw David give me the thumbs up when I mentioned him, so shout out to you, David Lannis.
There we go.
CSM president.
Got a plug on the Outrage. Got
a
nice
like that matters to his reputation. But
I mean,
regardless,
this could go, yeah.
Baby
steps.
I love you stopped yourself halfway through, but as I mentioned,
people knew where I was going.
We being consistent, the Jays being inconsistent.
Yeah.
The Toronto Blue Jays continue to struggle with consistency. I believe they're still fourth in the AL East, especially after Domingo Germán's perfect last night. Perfect game, first time since Felix Hernandez back in 2012 with the Seattle Mariners. So, big night last night for the Yankees. But again, back to the Jays. They continue to struggle out. What have you made so far the first, I'll say, close to 80, 85 games?
It's not good, man. Sure, I'm pretty sure, Spencer, they're in a playoff spot now, or at least, wild card spot. But I mean, that's not good enough because let's be honest here. If they make it in at this point, from what I've seen from their play, is they're not gonna, like, you thought Seattle was bad last year in terms of how things went down. Like, this is gonna be one of those where that if they get into the wild card spot and they play games, they're not going to do well, and that's kind of the idea I'm getting. And what really frustrates me even more is that you can tell there's frustration from the manager in terms of, having to answer the questions all the time about, the inconsistent play of whether it's the hitting or the pitching. You can tell there's a bit of frustration with John Schneider's answers. The thing that really irks me, though, is that there's no frustration, it seems like, from the front office, which would be Ross Atkins in this situation and President Mark Shapiro. And that's really where it's frustrating, because I can't believe that they're watching the same kind of baseball that we are watching as fans of this game, and they go, "Yeah, this is fine. We're okay with this. We're fine with a subpar ball club," which they shouldn't be, but they are. And you know what? If you get, like, Ross Atkins got asked about runners in scoring position, and he's like, "Oh, well, we've made improvements, and they've changed their approach, and blah blah blah." It's like, are you watching the same game, Ross? Like, are you really watching and paying attention? I don't think so. And I think I think the Jays are in for a rude awakening if they think they could take this team into the playoffs, into the postseason, into a wild card series. Wow, they're in for a wild ride, because let me tell you something, this team is not going to win 2 out of 3 wildcard games to advance to playoffs, and then let alone win that round and advance to the ALCS and then the World Series. This is not it. It's just not. And there needs to be change, and it goes back to the point that we were talking about before we started recording this podcast, where I don't understand why so many teams in Toronto are allergic to change. Something clearly has to be done. It can't just be me or you that is watching the Blue Jays and going, something doesn't have to give. And you know what? If you want to change something with, in terms of, you want better production out of your hitters when there's runners in scoring position, well, this is where you kind of look on your bench and you go, okay, well, the hitting coach, who has been there for quite a bit now, maybe get rid of him, give a different voice or perspective to the hitters, or, move somebody or move a piece. You can't move prospects. Their prospect pool is depleted. What, you're going to move Bowden Francis? Ricky Tiedemann? Sure. That's going to get you nowhere. You're probably going to get another Whit Merrifield or Santiago Espinal caliber player, maybe even Kevin Biggio, which I'm not knocking on Whit Merrifield. I do think he deserves to be an all-star. He's definitely improved his game, and he's proven that he can be a full-time big leaguer. But if you're the Blue Jays organization and you're looking at this and you're going, we're good. We just need that break. We just need that break. We just need to catch a break. Hey, the All-Star break's coming up. July 10th is the Home Run Derby. You know, you're less than a month out now. Almost less than 3 weeks out. And you still think that this team is good enough to win you a wild card series, let alone, the ALDS? Which, by the way, may I remind you, you're likely playing the Baltimore Orioles if you get that far. And let me tell you, you have no chance. No chance.
Well, Al, and I do want to mention this because I just did a little bit of research as you kept rambling on there about the Jays needing to make change. I think you said across the board you believe that the Toronto markets need to make change. Masai Ujiri for the Toronto Raptors was hired in 2013. Brendan Shanahan was hired in 2014 with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins were hired in 2015. So if you want change, I think you got to look inside the press box. Because if you expect these guys to make decisions, Masai is the only one of those three groups that really made a change. That was the DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard trade.
And he's safe. I want to make that clear.
He's the safest.
You're right. Safest that is actually a much better term to use. He's the safest compared to. By the way, you know what? We'll get to that in a second. I'm not ready to rip on Shanahan yet. We'll rip on one Toronto team first, but I got something for Shanahan.
Well, you got something for Shanahan, but again, I think that's the problem, Al, is you've got these guys who obviously have been in the position for, 10, 9, 8 years respectively across the board, and you're expecting to do something that they've never done. Like, Shanahan does not want to blow up the Leafs core. Masai Ujiri does not want to blow up this Raptors core. Why? I don't know, but he doesn't want to. And you've just seen Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro do not want to blow up or move a couple big pieces of this Toronto Blue Jays team. And baseball is the most volatile of the three sports we've talked about. Like, you'll have a great team one year and then a garbage team the next year with the same personnel. It is just that hot and cold. I don't know why it works that way, but that's just the way it works. Kind of like how the Phillies make it in as the third wild card team, and then they go to the World Series because they get hot, and it works out that way. Kind of like, Florida getting hot in the playoffs, and they go on their big run, and like Miami went on their big run. So, it's not a big surprise, but I am with you that eventually change needs to be made. And I think at this point, the Toronto Blue Jays, are probably the one team where I expect the least amount of change. I think Masai is going to make a deal. I don't know what kind of deal he's going to make, but I expect him to make one. And Cage and I'll talk about that next week if something hasn't happened yet. I expect Shanahan's going to have to do something, but it remains to be seen. I'll go with, I think Masai is the most likely because Masai's done it, right? Masai has a track record of blowing things up, moving things around. He hasn't yet, though, which, again, is worrying. And, again, as I mentioned, I think Atkins and Shapiro are the least likely to make a move because I genuinely believe they think that there's nothing wrong with this roster when they need another starting pitcher, they need more bullpen arms, they need, something to get the bats rolling that haven't really been, and I don't know where that's going to come from, Al. Again, that's just a thing where I don't know where it's going to come from.
Yeah, and I'm not saying blow it up for Shapiro and Atkins. I'm just saying fix what clearly needs fixing. And you don't need to blow this team up to fix what's going on right now. You just need to make this minor tinkering, get creative, and make some moves in order to fix your bullpen. Which, by the way, the bullpen isn't terrible. It's not great, but it's not awful. Trevor Richards has proven himself, quite often this season, especially with his last outing that he had last night, which would have been Wednesday night on June 28th. Good outing for a bullpen day. And you got a guy like Eric Swanson, also turned out to be a great addition, who, by the way, was involved in the Teoscar Hernandez deal. And I had one more. And Nate Pearson. Nate Pearson, I think, is a guy you could throw out there, and then obviously Jordan Romano, who leads the league in saves right now. Like those are solid. My problem is the Jimmy Garcias, guys like that. Adam Simber, who is not the same as he was last year, and quite frankly, I don't think he's an arm that you want to have in your bullpen if you do go to the postseason.
You can't trust him.
You can't. So it's guys like the guys that are used to being out there. And I'm sorry, the fact that Trent Thornton got in a game this year, man. Like I said last week when we recorded our 13th episode, the fact that Brandon Belt is your Lord and Savior when you step up to the freaking plate says all you need to know about how this Jays season is going so far.
Yeah, not particularly good. Another thing I do want to mention before we move on is Masai Ujiri, as we talked about, is the most secure of any of the managements across Toronto right now, excluding TFC and the Argos respectively.
They're the TFC's a whole new. They just
fired their manager and I believe just promoted a new GM. So I guess they're also not very stable. They're down for TFC at BMO Field.
Have not been good since the MLS Cup run
since they had Sebastian Giovinco.
Yeah, 2018, I believe, 2018-2019 season.
But regardless, I think another thing to mention is if you, for some ungodly reason, just fired. If MLSE decided we're going to fire everybody. The Rogers team fires Atkins and Shapiro, and MLSE fires both Shanahan and new GM Brad Treliving, and then fires Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster. Who is the first one to get hired out of that group? It's Masai Ujiri. Masai Ujiri instantaneously gets a job. He is the only one of those group of guys that would immediately get a new job if he wanted one. It would be up to be Masai, kind of like Kyle, who got that new job in Pittsburgh. But if you fired everybody, I don't think it's close, Al, and I want to get your opinion. I don't think it's close. I think Masai is the only one that would immediately get a job this summer, regardless of, they'd make a spot for him. Teams would make a spot for Masai Ujiri in their front office. I don't see that happening for Shanahan or Brad Treliving. In fairness to Brad Treliving, again, just gotten the job. He literally is not even officially the new GM till July 1st. Not Bobby Webster, respect to him, and obviously the two Jays guys. I don't think it's close.
I think Ujiri and Webster do get hired right out of the gates if they were to get let go. I think those two are, kind of the Kyle Dubises 2.0 in terms of, they know they have, you know what you're getting out of those two, and you know that, like Kyle Dubas, for instance, I think his job in Pittsburgh is really good for him because it gives you kind of a new perspective with a different team, and you don't have to, you're not necessarily blinded by the situation anymore. Eventually, it's like a smell in a room. You show up every day more and more and more. Eventually, you get used to it, and you don't really smell anymore. You go nose blind.
That sounds like me with you, Al. I've got nose blind to you.
Sure. I appreciate that. I'm thankful for that, actually. But anyways, not saying that I stink. Just I get the connection there or whatever. I know what you're saying.
Oh no, I meant you smell, but that works too.
Oh, gee, thanks. All right. Jeez. Thanks, Spencer. Appreciate that. I don't actually smell. There's this thing called deodorant, and I know it exists, and I wear it very well. Thank you very much.
He wears it once a week.
Sure. No.
Maybe once
every day.
Or two.
Anyways, let's not talk about my BO or my potential. Yeah, my hygiene. Like I said, I think Ujiri and Webster do get picked up right off the hop. Doesn't matter where. They're gonna be able to turn whatever franchise they go to around, and I guarantee you they'd be able to make quick work and bring them back up from the grave. Let's use that expression. Whereas for right now, Atkins, it's not looking good for him. And I think, it's kind of too. I had the chance to sit down with Doug Gilmore and Wendell Clark the other day, for the Joe Carter Golf Classic, and it was kind of cool to hear them talk because there's one thing that Dougie said, I think, and that was, when a coach gets fired from an NHL team, he doesn't go stupid. It's not because he went stupid or anything like that. It's just because the voice gets tiring and the message tires out, and you just need that new voice. So that's why so many coaches get jobs around the NHL again, because all you need is that new voice, right? So, and I think that's how it would work in terms of Ujiri and Webster. Is they've gone. I don't think they're there yet.
A fresh coat of paint, if you will. Give them a fresh coat of
But
paint.
I think Shanahan is the one who's working blind here now, where it's okay, listen. This is not it's not working. You've had 7 years to make this work.
Yeah.
And all you got was to the second round,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, you got dummied by the Florida Panthers, which, again, I can kind of say I saw this coming, or I should have seen it coming. I don't know why I was so high on my horse. I should have realized that
you're a Leaf fan.
it was still
now.
the Toronto
You bought
Maple
into the
Leafs.
hype. You bought into the hype.
Well, it's one of those where it's like you slayed the dragon, and usually you see teams slay the beast or their demons. My favorite one is the Washington Capitals. You knew once they beat Pittsburgh and they made it out of that second round, they were going.
See, I liked San Jose when they went to the Cup final and ended up losing. I believe it was to Pittsburgh back in, I want to say 2018, maybe 2017.
Yeah, not so sure. No, 2018 was St. Louis, and then Washington 19. No, 18 was Washington, 19 was the Blues.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So San Jose would have been
So
2016.
it's 16 or 17 then.
16, yeah, because 15, 16, the Penguins went back-to-back.
Yeah.
15 was Nashville, and 16 was San Jose, one of the two. Something like that.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it went that way. But yeah, I like that San Jose run. Because again, it was like their last kick, right?
Yeah, so I like those runs. Sorry, like I like the idea of like, oh, the storyline. They slayed the beast. They could go. They finally made it out of the first round. They're going now.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's like it was typical Leafs. Beat the team you shouldn't beat and lose to the team you should beat, which has been the narrative for years. And that's the frustrating part now. Let's transition over quickly to Shanahan real quick. It's been the same story for the last 7 years. And let's be real, there's not really anybody that has the guts on the board of directors for MLSE to fire anybody.
They've proven that.
No one from the higher ups is going to do it. Listen, the worst part is they're literally watching the same script be rewritten all over again. Why did Dubas get let go? Because he tried to go for Shanahan's job, change the ideologies, actually go for change, and the board was like, ha, nope, yeah, you can let him go, Shanny. Go ahead. So now you bring in, Brad Treliving, who is a yes man for Brendan Shanahan now, because he wants to stay. He wants to, yes, Mr. Shanahan, whatever you want. Oh, yeah, I'll run this trade by. You know what I mean? That's why I'm saying, there's not going to be any. Sheldon Keefe's back.
And maybe extended.
You want to, and you want to talk about a voice that ages? And I'm sorry, Sheldon Keefe's voice has even aged for me. I started watching Quest for the Stanley Cup on YouTube because I like watching those, and also the Leafs were actually featured in it for more than 30 seconds because it's second round and beyond for the coverage. And I'm listening to Keefe talking, I'm like, man, even I'm tired of hearing him. Like, that's when I fully realized, I was like, man, yeah, you know what? He should be gone because it's the same message or it sounds the same. But, again, allergic to change.
Well,
Ujiri and the Raptors, we talked about this too before we recorded. They seemed like they were trying to run it back. Kept failing. Ujiri finally goes, screw it. Franchise, one of the faces of the franchise name, DeMar DeRozan, you're gone, see you later. In comes Kawhi Leonard, guess what? They won a championship. Now again, I'm going to reiterate, I'm not saying the Leafs trade Marner, trade Nylander, and they're instant cup champs. No. Listen, hockey doesn't work that way. It doesn't. The game doesn't work that way.
It no work that way.
It does not work that way. But I'm just saying, someone in MLSE finally decided that it was time for something to change, acted upon it, and they were rewarded. Again, not saying that's what's going to happen for the Leafs, but listen, I have a bad feeling about this. Like, Treliving scares me. There's something about him that scares me.
He's in your nightmares, eh?
I don't know. Well, let's not take it that far. I can't remember the last time I had a dream. But anyways. So
that's sad, Al.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm busy. I got other stuff to think about other than, hey, like unicorns and stuff. I don't know.
No, I had a dream, Al. Like Martin Luther King. Had a dream. I had a dream that one day I would take a shower.
I know the line. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, we're back to the BO stuff. Anyways, I'm just saying.
Keep something going.
I'm just saying. I think I've said enough on this topic, but I don't know why. Like, something needs to change. It does, because listen, if they're running it back, David Kampf got signed to a freaking 4-year deal
For $2.4 million.
Ugh. Whereas Pontus Holmberg, who's, by the way, Nick Kyprios heard him say this morning, is that he thinks that that Pontus Holmberg will surpass David Kampf before the end of that 2-year contract, for $800,000. So unless they're planning to move Kampf at some point, what are you doing? You don't have to hit the cap floor. Listen, you got to make sure you got to worry about staying within the cap. So, anyways, I think the Leafs need to change their completely. Shanahan's got to go. He's so stubborn to have change The guy doesn't even want to change a goal song. For crying out loud. It's just a song, man. I don't care if... Apparently it's because his son likes the song, so that's why it's a thing. Boo-hoo. My parents told me no plenty of times when I was a kid, and you know what? I turned out pretty okay. So...
Oh. Debatable. But
yeah,
you know,
other than the fact that apparently I smell. Yeah, anyways, I don't.
Yeah, P.U. what a horrible
He just likes
smell.
bugging. And you break your leg. Yeah, how you like that? You like that? Keep talking. Yeah.
At least you're editing this one, so I can cuss now and make you do all the work. But regardless,
I'm not swearing. But anyways, regardless, big change needs to happen for the Leafs, and the only change I want for the Blue Jays is for Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro to wake up and smell the roses and realize that we're not asking for a lot here. Us Jays fans aren't asking for a lot. We're just asking for a little bit of tinkering because we know that that's pretty much all it's going to take to, really get the boys rolling.
Anywho, now on to another guy who apparently needs some change. Alek Manoah. We're sticking with baseball a little bit here as Al went on his Leaf tangent. Something he told me he wasn't going to do today, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, but
regardless,
you got to let the conversation go where it's going to go sometimes.
Well, and that's what I did. I let you just kind of get your anger out about David Kampf.
Felt very cathartic. I'm not angry. I still like David Kampf. He wins faceoffs. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
he
went $2.4 million over the faceoff.
A little too pricey for a guy that wins faceoff. Whereas Pontus Holmberg, by the way, is a fourth line center making 2 years $800K.
Yeah. We're paying $2.4 million for a face-off winner. But regardless, going on again, Alek Manoah had his first start in the Florida International League as Al tries to stop me.
So, okay, we can do this real quick because there's a trade.
Oh, I just got it.
Yeah, did you see it? We'll tease it. All right, put it this way: Detroit Red Wings and the Edmonton Oilers got into bed. So real quick, Alek Manoah. I know, real quick. This is all I'm going to say. I was going to go on a tangent to talk about his mechanics and stuff like that. No, put it this way. Dunedin, Florida, Manoah had a start, got absolutely obliterated in 2 2/3, 11 earned runs.
2 home runs allowed, 3 walks, only 2 strikeouts.
Yeah, not great. And I think it's safe to say we are not seeing Alek Manoah in a Blue Jays uniform again for the rest of this season.
At least August.
Until
if
at least,
not, maybe September.
Until at least the end of the year. Even then, I just don't think so. It was awful. And yeah, I hope he could stay down there as long as he wants. Now, I'm not in a rush. Listen, the bullpen, they don't win every bullpen day, but they still somewhat manage to hang around, so I'm okay with that. All right, Spencer, do you want to... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I do want to end with, again, if you don't know where Dunedin is, it is the rookie ball league for the Toronto Blue Jays, which means he literally is at the lowest level of baseball you can be at.
Yeah, he got teed off by a bunch of guys that have never seen...
That are 18 and 19-year-olds that are fresh out of either Dominican, the Central America, or our fresh draft pick.
Guys that are nowhere close to being a big leaguer is basically it, and that's what makes it even worse. So, I mean, again, I'm still a big Alek Manoah guy, but...
Figuratively and literally. Had to.
Anyways, hockey news. Here's a tweet from Frank Saravalli.
You're going to steal it from me?
No, I'm not. I'm just going to tee it up for you. I'm going to set you up for a...
It's an alley-oop. You're throwing up the lob?
I'm throwing up the lob, yeah. So, Frank Saravalli, sounds like the Edmonton Oilers and, like I said, Detroit Red Wings got into bed together and created a trade. All right, let's have it.
And then from TSN... The Detroit Red Wings have acquired 2 forwards from the Edmonton Oilers. They acquired Kyler Yamamoto, and Klim Kostin, who I absolutely love, by the way.
He was good.
Klim Kostin for future consideration. So a cap dump by the Edmonton Oilers, the Detroit Red Wings, who are looking to make an improvement on last season. As Al looks perplexed at his Sportsnet loaned computer.
Yeah, no, it's because I'm seeing. So the trades, so the Oilers said future considerations. So I wonder if that means they don't know what the return is yet, or
I think it's just cap relief. It's just. Cap
I mean, if it is, it's good for them. But I also failed to see. You know what's really hangering them now, and it wouldn't so much if he would have turned out good for them. But Jack Campbell, that contract sucks for them right now. That's just another what's his face, Mikko Koskinen. Anyways.
Yeah, but he got more money, I think, than Koskinen. But again, regardless, so that makes Detroit look a little more interesting. And not only that, Al, It makes the Atlantic Division in the East so much more competitive. If Detroit is trying to get better, and Buffalo is trying to get better, and the Leafs are trying to get better, and Florida should be better, and people are telling me Tampa's going to suck next year, but suck relative. Yeah, they're losing lots of depth, but they still got Kucherov, they still got Stamkos, they still got Hedman, they still got Vasilevsky. Boston will be a lot worse than last year, but they still could fight for a wild card spot. They surprised us this year with how good they were. I'm not holding out hope, but they still could be battling for a wild card spot in that Atlantic Division. So it means the only bad team, the only team I haven't mentioned is Ottawa, and Ottawa should be better.
Yeah, that's the only team that's really got the big question mark on them is Ottawa. I mean, Boston, like you said, you kind of know where they're going to be. But yeah, the question mark really is Ottawa. Like DeBrincat sounds like it's going to be a sign and trade.
Yep.
Doesn't sound like he's sticking around. And according to Pierre LeBrun, no salary retained in the trade. It's a clean deal. Clean deal. So
wow.
So this is a huge cap. So the Edmonton Oilers are making a move here.
So yeah,
they're in win. I think the Oilers.
Can I make a note
sure.
on this pick?
Yeah.
Erik Karlsson is gonna go to Edmonton.
Oh baby,
that's what that is right there. No retention. Erik Karlsson by next episode is gonna be an Edmonton Oiler. My God,
that's not a bad prediction.
Because everyone keeps talking about how San Jose doesn't want to retain a whole lot. And my prediction before, obviously, they made this big deal with Detroit for Edmonton. I thought what a team's going to do is, okay, San Jose, just retain 25%. We'll bring a third team in like Arizona. You retain 50, and we'll get Erik Karlsson for like $3 million.
So, another team trying to make a move, too, is... Well, the Nashville Predators also made it clear that Yaroslav Askarov, their number one prospect in their system now that Luke Evangelista is a full-time roster player, should be next year, and he could make a run for the Calder Trophy.
Yo, he's got a lot of competition for that, Al.
He does. It's going to be very stiff competition.
Yeah, this Calder race is going to be a great race, but continue.
It's going to be very good. The Nashville Predators made a trade with Detroit, acquired pick number 43 in exchange for 47 and 147. Nashville's trying to do something. Barry Trotz made it very clear last night. Like, he was trying to move up to 3 and 4.
He'd been trying to get up to 5.
That's why he was trying. Yeah, so, like, Nashville's a team that you can put in the conversation now that could be a tough team to play in the West if they play their cards right, which it seems like they will be, so...
Well, and I hope they don't trade Askarov, because I really do like Yaroslav. I think he will be a really good goalie. He's a little undersized for today's NHL, which upsets me, saying he's like 6'1", but again, regardless, I think he's real talented, and I think he'll be a great successor to UC Saros, who is also one of the best goalies in hockey. He's so small. I love UC
Yeah,
Saros.
It's just you wonder how long though Askarov could be a backup though. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like Jack Campbell. I'm not gonna blow I'm not gonna blow up his tires too much, but he was moved from the LA Kings to the Leafs because the Leafs kind of knew like this guy could potentially be a number one. And then he showed that he could, and then
for half a season,
and then went to Edmonton, and then did the same thing again. But lots of activity there in the NHL.
And we had some news before we even got in the studio. We literally just got into school, and Josh Bailey is now a Chicago Blackhawk. He and a second-round pick from 2026 are going to Chicago from the Islanders for future consideration. So we have seen a mass exodus around the NHL due to the cap constraints. It's only going up $1 million this season. So teams are really banking on the next 3 years that the cap's going to go exponentially up, which it does look to be going exponentially up within the next 3 years. But they're still dealing with this COVID-hamped flat cap, and it is costing teams big.
Like the Toronto Maple Leafs.
But not just Toronto.
No, I know.
Taylor Hall gets dealt for cookies to Chicago from the Boston Bruins because they needed that $6 million. No retention on that either, might I add. Just Josh Bailey just got traded. Edmonton trades both Kostin and Yamamoto.
Flyers also just made a move a couple minutes ago. They've moved up into the second round. They made a deal with Chicago. They grabbed the 51st pick. So they'll be drafting soon, I'm assuming, because the second round of the draft is underway and guys are already getting picked up. I know Chicago just drafted. But yeah, like this is really, it's funny too. Like everyone yesterday was like, where are the? Oh, this is a bit. Whoa!
Another big one just happened.
So the Red Wings, 19 minutes ago, with the 41st pick, selected Trey Augustine from the U.S. national program, goaltender.
Yeah, he was one of the top goalie prospects. I did a little stat sheet on him for TSN.
Yeah, so I was wondering who's gonna. Detroit's. They're looking good, man. Like, I'm not saying Trey Augustine's his Lord and Savior. Like, I think he needs some, he's got to develop. I don't think he's a Spencer Knight, but
Spencer won the first round for a reason, but not.
Yeah,
There's been 3 goalies taken in the second round. They were the top 3 goalies. It was Hrabal out of Czechia. He's going to the Coyotes, as you mentioned. There was Trey Augustine going to Detroit, and then at the very bottom of the sheet was the Canadian Bjarnason. I actually skipped over his name. Carson Bjarnason's going to Philly, so maybe that does mean Carter Hart's out of Philadelphia if they're taking Bjarnason with the second round pick.
Well, so here's the thing too. Like Carter Hart, I want to remind everyone too, was also with Team Canada in 2018 in London when all that went down. And for those of you who don't know what went down, I'm not going to give you the whole story. I'm going to give you just a brief idea. But sexual assault allegations are involved, and around that whole team, that team is under investigation.
That's the World Junior team?
Yeah. But it was narrowed down to 8 to 10 players or whatever. And I mean, I just want to note Carter Hart was on that team. Not saying anything. Like, he's still playing, so maybe, maybe he's good, maybe he isn't. I don't want to make any assumptions. I also want to
could or could not be one of those 8 or 10 players.
I want to point out restricted free agent Alex Formanton did not get re-signed last year by the Ottawa Senators.
And he also was on that team.
So I'm not leaning towards anything here. I'm just saying.
You're just stating a fact.
I'm calling it the way it seems right now. But anyway,
you're stating a fact that investigation has continued. They've narrowed down to 8 or 10 players, and there are players in the NHL right now that were a part of that team.
And Gary Bettman sounds like from what I heard in an interview with Elliot Friedman a few days ago, that he's awaiting for the final investigation results, blah, 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 and then we'll handle it accordingly. Hopefully. Gary, you haven't done much right lately with the NHL, so at least, get this one right, please.
Well, I'm going to end off, I think, our draft talk before we get into some more trades. Oh, Al,
hold on. It's not a trade. I just want to point out for Leafs fans who listen to this podcast,
a few of you out there,
Luke Shen is still in talks. His camp is still in talks with Brad Treliving, made it very clear that he wants to remain with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, so that's good news. And are we going into trades now, you said?
Well, I'm going to mention 2 draft picks that were just taken out of the OHL. Bo Akey going to Edmonton in the latter half of the first round, defenseman out of Barrie. Really liked his game. I believe he led the OHL with points from a defenseman over Oliver Bonk, who went in the first round out of the stinky, nasty, disgusting, no good, rotten London Knights. And then going to Dallas here, the most recent pick from what my phone's telling me is Tristan Bertucci out of the Flint Firebirds going to Dallas.
Oh, very nice.
Really like Bertucci's game as well. So really like Bo Akey and Tristan Bertucci. Both guys are kind of undersized, but I really do like both their games, and I do expect will be offensive power play quarterbacks in the NHL.
I feel like this first round, don't get me wrong, it was stacked, but it wasn't super stacked. It seems like the WHL was mostly led the way. Fun fact, by the way, no players from the QMJHL were taken in the first round this year.
The Q's garbage. Just because it won the Memorial Cup does not mean they're a good league.
I'll give you that, I guess. I still think
all the talent is in the O and
AHL.
The dub, and the Q is the little brother of the 3.
Yeah,
that
seems like the trend as of late. But anyways, geez, where was I going with that?
Where were you going with that?
I don't know where I was going with that. It was about. Nope, I forget. Oh well, whatever. Probably not important. It's okay.
Okay, well, as long as it wasn't important.
I don't think it was important. But anyways, so we can move forward.
Are there any other trades that you want to talk about? I've been trying to think of some other trades.
Pierre-Luc Dubois?
Down. Oh, I forgot about. Yep, we got to talk about that one.
So,
the LA Kings acquired Pierre-Luc Dubois. They beat the Habs to the sweepstakes, but they do send 3 NHL quality players and a second-round pick next year for him. So it is quite a steep price relative to what maybe people thought he might go for.
I thought what I was going to say. It wasn't a deep first round. But I feel like there's a lot of second round gems. Teams can really succeed with the guys that'll come out of that second round. But anyways, yeah. So I actually wanted to know your thoughts first because I think what you say might influence what it might come out of my mouth next. Okay. But what are your thoughts on the deal? I think I'll just say this for now, and then I'll dive into my explanation. I think the Winnipeg Jets won the trade.
Do you really think so?
Yes.
So I don't disagree because I heard MJ. Michael Johnson on TSN Radio, I believe it would have been yesterday, talking about how he thought that Winnipeg won because they got 3 NHL caliber players plus a draft pick for Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I don't disagree with that. And I like Gabe Vilardi, former Kingston Frontenac. Injuries have really derailed his star potential, but he's still really talented. Kupari, really good Finnish player. He will fit into the lineup. And I'm trying to think of the other guy who ended up getting dealt in that
Alex
deal.
Iafallo.
It's Iafallo, who's got a ceiling, but is a talented winger nevertheless. and then I believe again it was a 2024 second round pick. But the best player goes to LA, obviously. And in all fairness to Kapari and Velarde and Iafallo respectively, Pierre-Luc Dubois will be the best player of this trade, unless one of them decides to go nuclear. And
which I think that would be Gabe Velarde if he stays healthy.
Exactly, it's Gabe Velarde, but again, health is a massive factor for him. And I think about this: their now top two centers in LA are Pierre-Luc Dubois, Anze Kopitar, and Quentin Byfield. Like, that is a nasty 1-2-3 punch down the middle.
Which Byfield, seems like he's about to go. I'm not saying he's going to go off, but it seems like he's finally going to come into that element where, he starts to look more like an NHL player this year, where I don't think he was quite there yet. Excuse me. I don't think he was quite there yet last year, but I do think he'll come into, fruition a little bit this season.
And the other thing is, Al, even if he doesn't necessarily have the offensive skill everyone thought he would, getting drafted second overall back in 2020, he's 6'5", 220,
and it's still gonna even if he doesn't show up.
Yeah,
it'll eventually show up. Where it's like, okay, yeah, this is why he went second.
Like, even if that offensive, acumen never really makes it, because some guys don't. But he's so big, again, 6'5", 220, that he'll be able to play in the NHL regardless of how good offensively he is. It's just waiting for that offense to catch up. He had 22 points, Byfield did, in 53 games last season for LA. So, again, we'll see if he can improve on that mark. I go as far as to say he will. But again, he'll be the third-line center most likely unless they put him on the wing. And that LA team is looking dangerous. And if their goaltending shows up, which remains to be seen, they made some trades to try to fix it. Korpisalo really didn't in the end. And they obviously traded Cal Peterson, which was an awful contract. They traded away Jonathan Quick, so they do have some cap space. So we'll see what they do. But, it'll be interesting to see how Luc Dubois does fit in that offense for LA.
I think he'll fit in well, but here's where I think the Winnipeg Jets won the trade. Like, Velarde and Iafallo, those are your depth scorers on that LA Kings team. Like, I thought that the Kings would look to build around what they have now. Let's not forget, so Philip Deneau also slides down to the fourth.
Actually,
line, right?
So that means they got to put Byfield in the wing, because I forgot about Philip Deneau.
Yeah.
But again, think about all those centers. Those are 4 NHL quality centers that are all big.
Where Velarde, though, and Iafallo, like, they were power play guys for the Kings. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like the Jets now don't have many more moves to make in terms of getting back into that contention slot-ish. I still think, Wheeler sounds like he's going to be bought out. It sounds like they're still looking for a suitor for Mark Scheifele, so there's a few more pieces to move, but my concern is I don't know how many big pieces they get, and this is where I think Cheveldayoff really has to nail it. If you're going to move Mark Scheifele, you got to get somewhat of a decent return, like NHL-ready guys like that could benefit Velarde and Iafallo, or vice versa, where Iafallo and Velarde can benefit whoever else comes in for that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where Winnipeg won, is like, you just took a lot of depth pieces from the LA Kings, where I'm like, man, they just need a few more guys like that, and they can probably win a playoff round, considering they have Jonas Korpisalo between the pipes, but we're not sure if he's even going to stay. So there's a couple of question marks there, but when I first saw it, my first reaction was, man, Winnipeg won this deal big time.
Well, let me see if I can sell you on the LA perspective. They have $4 million in salary cap space. They have 11 forwards, 4D, and 1 goalie signed right now on cap friendly. There are 11 forwards listed from most expensive to least expensive. Are Anze Kopitar, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kevin Fiala, Philip Deneau, Adrian Kempe, Victor Arvidsson, Trevor Moore, Blake Lizotte, Carl Gunstrom, Quentin Byfield, Arthur Kaliev. That is a pretty nasty forward
that is
core.
good. That is very good. Yeah, but you're right. It is good, but I'm also just wondering, like, I don't know, the guys you named, like Trevor Moore or Carl Grundstrom, you'd think those would have been the pieces. I don't know. I feel like LA could have been better, like, if they would have hung on to Velarde and Iafallo. But then again, like, we won't know until they play, to be honest. I mean, we all thought Boston was going to suck last year, and then look what they did, right? So, hockey is a crazy sport in that sense.
And the other thing, Al, honestly, is if LA is able to get one more quality defenseman to fit into that defensive core right now of Drew Doughty, Vladislav Gavrikov, Michael Anderson, and Matt Roy. I'm not sure which one he is. Then they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a great team, and then we'll see how they fill out the rest of the roster. But That team looks really, really good. Like, their wingers, you can kind of argue, don't look particularly great with looks like their top two wingers, even though Fiala had a great year last year and Adrian Kempe, and then Victor Arvidsson's right there. Like, that is a really, really good forward core that is going to impress some teams. And they're big. Like, Anze Kopitar, Selke contender consistently. Pierre-Luc Dubois, you'd think the same thing. Philip Deneau is arguably the best defensive center in hockey. And then you've got, what? Either Quentin Byfield or Blake Lizotte at the bottom, at the fourth line.
Yeah, that's
pretty
good.
That is a gross. Like, we talk about the Leafs center core, LA's beating them easily. With those three guys.
100%. I mean, yeah, I had LA beating the Leafs last year anyways, regardless, like whenever they played each other. Like,
and it's gotten the margin for error, Al, has gotten just a little bit bigger.
But here's the difference, too, with the Leafs and the LA Kings. Look at how much the guys you named, the depth pieces you named off the LA Kings roster, how much they all make compared to the depth pieces. Listen, David Kampf is going to be your fourth-line center, probably. And the only guy you're moving, so Kerfoot's not coming back, assuming he isn't. If he does come back.
Well, and Bunting's definitely gone.
Bunting is going to be gone, can't afford him, and Justin Hall is also gone, which I swear.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. So that's the thing, too. Like, the LA Kings have guys that are like, yeah, we don't need to get paid right away. Don't get me wrong, you had to give Dubois the money. He wasn't going to go.
But he only got 8.5. Like, that's a relatively good contract.
No, I know,
think about it.
I know, but it's all, yeah, but like, I mean.
Because his max output's been 63 points last year in 73 games. You think he's not going to eclipse that in LA? Like, come on, dog.
I know Dubois is not going to go. Dubois is going to end up in Montreal at some point. But listen, at the same time, too, the guy's got a brain. He wanted out of Winnipeg because he knew they probably weren't going to do so well. Connor Hellebuyck doesn't want to come back. I'm not sure if that changed his mind now with that LA Kings trade. Maybe. Doubt it, but maybe.
And I want to say something quick here before we continue. It's a narrative I don't like, but a narrative we force on other athletes, so I wish the NHL was more similar, is when John Elway forced his way out of the Baltimore Colts to go to the Denver Broncos back in the 80s, people complained about it. When Eli Manning did the same thing with the San Diego Chargers, now Los Angeles Chargers, and went to New York, people complained about it. Len Drosh saying no to the Nordiques and getting traded to Philly, which worked out for the Nordiques. You know, you got Pierre-Luc Dubois, gets drafted to Columbus after 3 or 4 years, says, I want to play in Columbus, gets dealt to Winnipeg, plays, 2 years in Winnipeg, so I don't want to play in Winnipeg, gets dealt to LA, and people have a bad taste in their mouth. I don't understand it.
I mean,
play where you want to play, especially if you can. Like Adam Fox gets drafted to Calgary, says, I want to play in Calgary. They say, I want to play in New York. Send him to Carolina. He says, I don't want to play in Carolina. I want to play in New York. So Carolina trades him to New York, and he plays for the Rangers now. And this is a Norris-winning defenseman. Like, let's not act like if an athlete wants to play somewhere, come hell or high water, they have the leverage and the ability to go wherever they want. And faulting them for it, yeah, do I wish they had the attitude I'll play for anybody? Yes.
Because that's what it is. But you're the National Hockey League, man. Like,
But they don't.
No. But, like, listen, yes, you put in the work to get to where you want to be. Fine, I get that. But your goal, which is every player's goal, from what I've seen yesterday, listen, if you had a new drinking game yesterday and it was like, hey, listen, take a drink every time you hear the word unbelievable or it's a dream, you'd be drunk and passed out by pick number 5.
Yeah, by pick 10, you'd be
gone.
You'd have alcohol poisoning.
You'd be gone because that's all the players are saying, and they're not saying it because it's a cliche. Maybe they are. I don't care if they are, but like the whole point was to work your ass off so that you can play in the National Hockey League. Listen, the only place where I would understand right now if you're a player and you don't want to play would be Arizona. I get it because they can't even figure out where the hell they're going to play. You know what how messed up Arizona's priorities are? They had matching suits for the draft yesterday. Their suit game was better than their on-ice game. Can you believe that? I can, because let's be honest, Arizona's a laughingstock right now.
They've been a laughingstock for a while now.
And there's a guy they drafted, we talked about this beforehand, Simashev went 6th instead of 26th. They had 2 first-round picks. You had 6 and 12. You could have picked him up at 12 if you really want him. 12 would have made a bit more sense because it would have been later in the first round. Not at 6. Simashev was even like, what the heck? Ha! No way. But I mean, also, like, being drafted to the Arizona Coyotes, at this point I was like, man, I feel bad for you. Here's another one. Sean Durzi.
He's their highest paid defenseman.
That was connected to the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, though. They had to dump his cap because they knew
Yeah.
he's next.
Same thing with Edmonton. What I just said, they traded Kloston and Yamamoto. They know something's coming on the pipeline. They need to make the cap space work.
Yep. So, but I mean, come on. Like, back to the main point. I don't think Dubois earned his stripes yet to be like, I want to play here. In my opinion, it kind of confuses me because let's be honest here. He's just going to pull the same crap in LA. I give him 2 years and he's in Montreal.
No, he chose to go to LA. He had
well,
no move.
Well, I mean, let's be real. They're also paying him. It's not a sign and trade. He's gonna play for the LA Kings for at least 2 years. Heck, he might go on a cup run with them. But guess what? As soon as he wins his cup, I think he's gone. But my point, the reason why
an 8-year deal.
Yeah,
he's there for 8 years.
Sure, for now, his contract isn't bad. You just said it itself. It's not the least attractive contract there is in the league right now. Seth Jones is making 9.5.
Yeah, and he sucks.
Exactly. Like there are worse contracts than that right now. You can move Dubois' contract. I think someone would take that on if they had enough cap.
But why would they trade it? They just signed him to it.
I'm not saying they will right away. I'm just saying I'd like Dubois to spend at least 5 years with the franchise before going by.
Oh, he's gonna. I think LA's gonna be.
I hope so, because then I'll give him the stripes and be like, yeah, you know what? You've earned the right to complain and say you want it gone. Dude, you played 2 seasons. How about you give the team a chance to figure out how they're gonna build around you?
Well,
don't get me wrong. I know you're not getting any younger every year. I understand look, Connor Hellebuyck right now is the only guy where I'm like, okay, you can say you want to go wherever you want, and you can, because guess what?
Yeah, but in fairness, again, Pierre-Luc Dubois kind of got forced into Winnipeg, and it was a bad situation when he got there, and it's only gotten worse since he's been a Winnipeg Jet. Like, it was bad 2 years ago. It's gotten worse. Like, Blake Wheeler's going to get bought out now. Got stripped of the captaincy last year. Mark Scheifele seemingly's out.
They did that to themselves, though.
Hellebuyck looks like he's seemingly out. They just traded Pierre-Luc Dubois. They traded Trouba a couple years ago. They had to cut Bufflin.
They did it to themselves. They did it to themselves. Look at Laine.
Yep.
Wheeler and was it Wheeler and Scheifele that he had issues with?
Probably.
In the dressing room? Yeah, and guess what? Instead of getting rid of those two, who, excuse me, Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Scheifele, what have you done in your career that you get to, pick on a superstar?
Well,
sorry. Yeah, he's
possible superstar.
Possible superstar. His injuries have definitely hampered him, but I think Patrick Laine is a star.
Could be, definitely.
Could be. Like, what have you done to be able to go, one conference final? Bravo! And Kevin Cheveldayoff is just no better than anybody else because guess what? Gets rid of the star that you got in a second-round pick who clearly was the right pick. Like, you picked him in the right spot. Yeah, you get rid of him instead because he's whining about the issues. Oh, wait, where did Kevin Cheveldayoff... Oh, yeah, Chicago! What did Chicago do when a problem happened? They buried it under a rug and won 3 Stanley Cups.
And he was there when they did it. He was there. He was one of the few who didn't get canned over it.
Yep. Anyways, this is opening a whole different can of worms. I'm just saying the whole point of this part is I'm glad Dubois is out of Winnipeg. I'm glad he got what he wanted. I don't think he has earned that status to be able to complain about where he's at. If he plays at least 5 years in LA, fine. Just earn your stripes a bit more. And also Winnipeg, I thought, won that deal initially at first. Now that we've talked about it, I think it does, make more sense that the LA Kings did win. Like, they got the better player. I just thought that those were really 2 big key pieces for the LA Kings roster in the playoffs last year when Vilardi came back. Like, he almost put the team on his back with Anze Kopitar. Those were the only 2 players that were really playing. So, that's where I was going with it. I think the LA Kings, I'm definitely leaning more towards the Kings now that we've talked about it. But initially, my initial reaction was, holy crap, the Jets just freaking pulled off a decent trade.
Well, no, it's a good trade for both teams. It's one of those where it's like both teams got what they needed. But the problem is, for me now, is, again, we talked about it. With Winnipeg, you got to think losing Hellebuyck this summer. You got to think losing Scheifele either this summer or next summer. Blake Wheeler's going to get bought out. Like, they're going to be a completely different team, and I don't know if that completely different team is going to be any good.
So we talked about this. The Chicago Blackhawks seem like they're trying to build a puzzle very quickly around Mr. Connor Bedard, who went first overall
Which
in the
is
draft.
such a joke, because they're going to suck regardless. They have no goaltending. Their defense is garbage.
Who are we
Their
talking?
coaching's bad.
Who are we talking about right now?
Chicago?
No. Yeah, but we were just talking about a goalie who doesn't want to be in Winnipeg anymore.
How about they can't? No,
Well,
no.
They can't afford
he's
him.
going to Jersey.
Chicago needs to hit the cap floor, and it seems like I don't know if he's going to New Jersey because look at New Jersey's big core now. They have big contracts, and Akira Schmid is cheap, and Akira Schmid proved that last in the playoffs that he could probably hang in the big leagues.
If Connor Hellebuyck got a phone call from Kevin Cheveldayoff and he said, "Hey, we got to trade for it. We're trading to Chit," and he hang up the phone.
That's really.
He'd hear Chit and go, "Nope."
Maybe I'm just thinking on the fly here.
The only team with a C he would go to is Colorado. If he didn't hear Core, he would hang up the phone.
Oh, and
Calgary hang up the phone.
The reason why I'm saying they can afford, well, okay, Calgary would shoot themselves in the foot even more because listen, you already paid one goalie and he had one bad season. So what? You want to bring in two goalies that are kind of question marks? Because listen, I've been saying this for a long time before me and you even met, Spencer. Connor Hellebuyck is not a playoff goaltender. Hasn't proved it yet. He made it to one conference final, but that's about it. Other than that, what has he done since, right? Maybe a new scenery could do it. I think it could, maybe. You have the right team. And if Chicago's trying to do that, I'm just saying, like, if the Vegas Golden Knights proved anything this year, is there were a lot of times where the Florida Panthers made them look like very vulnerable, but guess who was there to stop the puck? Adin Hill. Could Adin Hill go to Chicago? Doesn't seem likely because it sounds like Vegas is ready to pay him.
Which is stupid. We talked about that last
episode. I hate how that happens all the time. Like, dude, the worst part is we think it's dumb to pay a fourth stringer after you have one good cup run in the playoffs for 15 games. How stupid is it of the Oilers to sign Jack Campbell after one good half of a season?
Yeah, and then suck in the playoffs in the second half.
Five times 5. Yeah, good one. Yeah, you did. Yeah, great. Good job, guys.
Like,
anyways.
I am definitely not an advocate of don't pay goalies. I believe you should pay goalies if they're talented enough to be paid. Like
no goalie should get $10 million anymore. If Sergei Bobrovsky's proven one thing, no goalie is going to get 10.
Well, Carey Price. Carey Price did that too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard. Well, no, it's Carey Price. They both won
the Stanley Finals in the last 3 years.
Carey Price was more of a consistent goaltender than Bobrovsky. Carey Price was ever since Kreider ran into him, he was never the same again. I'm still convinced today if Price doesn't get run over, he probably is still playing and still has at least 5 years left in him.
Probably, but
we won't know.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's about
And all I can tell you is those two guys we've just talked about both have been in the Stanley Cup Finals within the last 3 years.
Yep.
And no one's paying a goalie board in probably 8 or 9 within the next.
And I heard Hellebuyck wants 9.5.
That's probably his ceiling. He probably knows he won't get a penny more than that.
No, and the reason why I'm saying Chicago too is, like I said, they have cap space because they also signed Nick Foligno to a 1-year deal for $4 million.
I hope Detroit does it. That'd be kind of funny. Because I think Detroit.
Hellebuyck to Detroit?
Yeah, Detroit. It's like a goalie away.
How
they'd make the money work now? Getting Costin and Yamamoto, I don't really know. But...
Well, that and you also have Nedeljkovic and Thomas Greiss,
and
who are
Philly
both.
Husso.
Yes, yeah, forgot about that. That's right. Husso came.
But I'm pretty sure Nedeljkovic is done now. I think his contract just ended this summer, so I think he's now a UFA. I believe.
It's a very weird situation. I'm curious to see where Hellebuyck
goalies
goes.
in, goalies out all over the NHL, and it continues to be a charade. Because right now the best goalie on the market, I believe, is Korpisalo, just about. Because I did a little RFA or UFA, pardon me, spreadsheet for all the top free agents, and I believe it probably be Korpisalo. Because there's Quick, there's Korpisalo. Hill technically is still a UFA, but he's most likely going to get signed by Vegas, as we talked about. So Hellebuyck is really the big fish on the goalie market if there will be one to be traded, and his landing spot will be quite interesting because once that domino falls, other teams are really going to have to go after the slim pickings in the UFA market. What? And Jeremy Swayman from Boston as an RFA.
Yes. There was actually another one that came to my head while you were saying that, but now it threw me off again.
The goalie?
Yeah. I forget who. No, not John Gibson. He's going to stay now. The Ducks they kind of have their ducks in a row, I guess you could say. And
trying to be better?
It could be, but isn't Freddie Anderson's contract up?
Yep, both him and Antti Ranta. Both Ranta and
That'll also be
Anderson.
interesting. Maybe Hellebuyck goes to Carolina?
I mean, that would break their mold, but it makes sense.
It'd be weird.
It'd be very weird.
But yeah. Interesting. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, it's kind of sad how many teams need a goalie, but, like, don't have a goalie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's so many teams we could say, like, they could trade for him and he was a goalie, but also, like, why would they trade for a goalie? Right? Like, how many teams could we genuinely say, like, need a goalie? Like, the Leafs They could use Connor Hellebuyck. They can't afford him or can't trade for him, but they could use Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
Like, other than probably the Rangers, the Islanders with Sorokin and Shesterkin, obviously, Vasilevsky in Tampa, probably Bob and Spencer Knight in Florida, Ottinger maybe in Dallas, and then after that, like, is there a goalie that keeps him out? Genuinely?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. But, I mean, that's what I like about the offseason, though. It makes it it's never really not interesting. And I also want to point out real quick how everyone wanted a trade at the draft the other night. And it's like, everyone's like, oh, where are all the trades at? It's like, yeah, the NHL pulled one on you where they knew people would be wanting chaos. And they're like, no, we're going to trade and make our moves beforehand so you have the most boring night ever. And when was the last time the NHL did that? Oh, yeah. Remember when free agency signing last season was absolutely dry and they're like, well, we probably won't have a show because like we did nothing for a solid day. Right? Or, sorry, no, it wasn't the free agency because you could only start signing guys on July 1st. It was the trade deadline because all the trades had been done beforehand, so nothing happened on the deadline shows. It was hilarious. And I feel like NHL execs kind of I don't know if they get together or not and actually have this conversation, but I feel like they're like, hey, let's do this now. Just to give them one, just to give the field day to the media and just be like, make it dry for them, which makes me laugh.
And before I send us home, Al, I do want to mention the first pick of the third round is Colson Pirate out of Flint. Big fan of his. Do not like the Flint Firebirds. They're stinky, rotten, and nasty. But two of their best players were two of the guys I thought actually had some talent there in Colson Pirate and before I forget his name, Tristan Bertucci. So, big ups to them getting drafted to the OHL, being well represented at the NHL draft as always. And, I know the Atlanta Knights, your former employer had two guys get drafted in the first round, both rotten, stinky, no good, yellow belly guys. And before Al freaks out, Corey Barlow went to Winnipeg at 18.
Josh Bailey has been placed on unconditional waivers for the purpose of a buyout.
I mean,
what the heck is Chicago doing? You're trying to that's not how you... Guys, that's not how you hit the cap floor.
Well, I guess they wanted the second round pick and they just cut Bailey.
Weird.
So maybe Josh Bailey's going to come back to New York.
Bailey goes back to New York. That'd be freaking hilarious. That's hilarious.
I just watched Al actually have a stroke over there too as he read that. He literally just puffed at his chest.
Also, Carolina made a pick swap with the San Jose Sharks just now. San Jose gets pick number 71. Carolina gets 94 and 100. So I guess Carolina's really good at drafting depth guys.
They are.
They are very good at that.
Especially defensemen.
Yes.
Because they've also been rumored after Erik Karlsson. I don't think he goes to Carolina, but he's been rumored to go to Carolina.
Weird.
Imagine Carolina got Brett Burns and Erik Karlsson.
Mind you, does the buyout go... Maybe the buyout goes on the cap?
It will affect the cap.
Yeah, it has to. Yes. Unlike that TJ Brody proposed buyout that was made by Frank Saravalli. No, the Leafs are not buying out TJ Brody, but he was just suggesting that if they were to buy him out...
Yeah, Al's still dying on that
before
hill.
You all freak out. He wasn't saying they're going to buy him out. He was just saying if they were to, it wouldn't go on against the cap, and it would actually be cheaper to buy him out now than it would be 2 years from now, or whatever. So, anyways, I love this time of year for the NHL. I love how...
And it's been a hectic... It's like we talked
crazy.
About,
this is busy.
Last year's free agent frenzy was boring. This year's is going to be an absolute bloodbath because we've been seeing trades for the past 3 days about cap room, cap space, moving guys around, trying to create space. And it's going to keep going until free agency opens. And then we're going to see some guys get moved. Like Hellebuyck could be moved. Sign-in trades will be done on July 1st because they need to be done or they're going to lose the player. So
it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun.
We're going to see how that goes. But for episode number
14
of the
1-4.
Al, do you want... Frenchie.
14. That's Spanish. Eat that one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
stinky ones.
Yeah,
it's like stinky cheese.
Well, yeah, like you. Exactly. Yeah, exactly the way you smell.
Yeah, see, I set you up there. See, that's called... I teed you up there. I set you up for that one.
Whatever makes you sleep at night.
Gotcha.
So, Al, do you want to do the outro? Because you've been consistently stealing it from me, or do you want me to wrap it up?
What do you mean?
You stole it last
I
episode?
Yeah, I didn't steal it. I asked for it.
I'm asking if you want it.
I give you the intro, and then I do the outro. Why?
Do you want the outro?
I kind of do now that you're throwing it at me.
Well, okay, Al. Well, Al, that seems to be it for us.
Is it?
I think so.
It is it. We're not going to keep you here any longer. from Big Al, Spencer Byers. Episode 14 of
Stinky
the
Al. That's gonna be a new one.
Oh shit, no, we're not doing that. This is episode 14 of The Outrage. Hopefully we stay consistent for a third consecutive week.
We should.
We should. This episode will be posted at some point later today. Well, you'll see it when you see it. For now, so long from The Outrage.